Oh, there we go. I thought we were all doing that for a second. Hello. Welcome to Witches Movie Coven. I am not Patti Negri. I am not nearly as. I know. We thought I was Patti Negri for like 15 seconds, but lovely Patti is in Romania visiting Dracula's castle along with Father Sebastian. They're doing their witch and vampire tour in Romania. And so we wish them well. We wish them a bon voyage, a great journey. And however, you are here with us tonight, and I am one of your hosts. I am Richard-Lael, but before we go too far, I should introduce my friends who are here, and we'll just go in order. Heather, you are right there on top. Hello, Heather Greene.
Hi, I am Heather Greene. I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft. Oh, there it is. The definitive guide to witches and witchcraft in American movies and television. I am a journalist covering all things occult as well as an acquisitions editor at Llewellyn, and I'm super glad to be here tonight to celebrate Beltane with my coven.
Woo!
Speaking of Beltane, Mr. Jason Mankey.
I ran away from the field I was in, maypoling with all the young wenches just to be here on the Witches Movie Coven tonight, interrupting my normal Beltane festivities. I'm an author. I've written a bunch of books. I do a lot of talking. I have nice hair.
All of this is true. All of this is true.
This is all I got.
And speaking of ladies who dance on a maypole, Miss Courtney Buckley.
That's me. What? I've never danced around a maypole, but I'd love to start. So if anyone wants to show me where the nearest one is, I'll get right on that. I'm Courtney Buckley. I am Ghostbait on Scared and Alone. I am a Salem tour guide, witch, all that fun stuff. And I've prepared today with my sunglasses because I'm sure everyone has an opinion about my opinions today. So there we have it.
And today we actually have one of my very good friends coming in all the way from Los Angeles, flying in on his broom. And by broom, I mean his mobile phone. Chad Hatter, ladies and gentlemen, Chad Edward Lee Evett. Hello, Chad.
I am so happy to be here. I spent the entire afternoon whacked out of my gourd with the most ungodly migraine in all of Christendom. And now I'm just trying to get my phone to do what I want it to do. But I'm very pleased and alarmed to be here.
You chose the right word, sir.
Well, I suppose then we should talk about what movie it is that we actually are going to be talking about. We are going to be discussing Love at Stake, which is a 1980s timeless classic, and it has an all-star cast for the 1980s. And normally Patti would toss to me, and I would give my unbiased movie whatever, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'll give you my little breakdown. It is an absolute gem of a film. It's historically accurate in every single way, from the 1980s fashion in the 1690s, and to the Salem witches being burned at stake, and to the zippers that she wore, and the low cut thing, and the corsets that were worn, and the Willy Wonka wig. All of these were absolutely historically accurate for the 1690s in Salem. And if you believe that, then you are probably enjoying Beltane. Anyway, tonight's movie, it takes place in the 1690s in Salem, as we just discussed. And of course, this magistrate and the sort of what it was. He was the mayor and a magistrate came up with this idea that they wanted to steal land from people. So they came up with accusing people of witches until an actual witch shows up, and then all hilarity ensues. She tries to seduce people. And of course, the one that she wants is the hero, whose girlfriend is Sarah Lee, because nobody doesn't like Sarah Lee. And of course, they end up in the end kissing, and then hunka love, and the witch has turned into Mama from Mama whatever her name is.
Fratelli.
Mama from the train.
Mama Fratelli, throw Mama from the train, and she says, "Of course I'm a witch," and she's like, "You shallow, I'm clearly the witch." And then everyone has a good time. They roast marshmallows and hot dogs while they're burning people at stake, like they actually did in Salem. Isn't that right, Courtney?
I love that little note. Heather picked this film.
With that, Heather. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Courtney.
Oh no, you can come to me after Heather.
Heather picked this film. Heather, do you have some historical context of this film?
Yeah, I got some things. First of all, we fill in a lot of films, and I pull some from my book that are not, they're not the ones that have won Academy Awards, but they are interesting to talk about. So I'm going to give you, of course, my top 5 things that are interesting or notable about this little film. First of all, I would like to counter what my good friend Richard-Lael said here and tell you that, number 1, this film is not historically accurate. That's an important note. Number 2,
what? Who told you?
The comedy style. I think I like to just point out the comedy style. I will elaborate in a little bit. Number 3, there's a ton of different cultural references that are really all over the place, which play into the comedy style. Of course, the context, 1987, it's really important to note that and why that is and why this film came out. And number 3, there's a number of notable or recognizable faces in this, but I'd like to mention Barbara Carrera, and there's a reason for that. So I'm going to start with number 1, again, going back and giving a little context here. No, this is not a historically accurate account of what happened in Salem. Now, Courtney will chime in and tell us all the things that might have been accurate, but most of it, I'm going to wager, is not, which is we're not burned, as Richard-Lael said. Or didn't say. I'm not sure which one. I can't remember. Number 2, the comedy style. We talked a lot about this comedy style in when we did the Monty Python movies, because this was really popular in the 70s and 80s. Think Mel Brooks, again, Monty Python, and Leslie Nielsen, the airplane movies. Here's Strange Brew. You have this like low combination of anachronistic, lowbrow, satire, all mixed together with number 3, a smorgasbord of cultural references. You get everything in here. I mean, this stuff comes from all over the place. There's stereotyping for all kinds of ethnicities, genders. You have Dr. Joyce Brothers show up, who is an 80s icon. You have Ella Fitzgerald mentioned. You have Stevie Wonder. You have, of course, all the Salem stuff, the witch stuff, 16th birthday. That was not an accident. And of course, Scarlet Letter. That's another one. Nathaniel Hawthorne's thrown in there. You've got a ton of it. And it's just thrown into this big soup to make this type of comedy. So that's really neat. Now, why in 1987? Getting to the year. This is number 4. 1987 was middle of the Satanic Panic for our culture, for our nation. But it was the beginning of when Hollywood started to engage with it, which is really important to note, because this film is not atypical. The position it takes, the morality it takes, is atypical for witch films of this era, which were much more backlash against women, witches eating children, more of the horror stuff. That starts in 1987. Witches of Eastwick is 1987. The witchcraft films start to come out in 88, 89, etc. So this was right at the beginning. So this film is engaging with the moral panic and how ridiculous it is. Okay, so that is unique for this era. We don't start to see criticism of the panic and the moral panic into the later 90s when we start to see the turnaround. But in those films, Hollywood started to really think more about what witchcraft is. We started to see the Wicca and it being a religion. It's a totally different conversation. This is just purely attacking and making fun of the panic itself, okay, and the ridiculousness of it. So that's really an interesting role this movie plays in the history of witch films. And then the last thing I want to talk about is Barbara Carrera. So you have recognizable faces. I know that Jason was really excited to see a Cassidy brother on here, being such a big fan of
the do run, run, the do run. Also the Hardy Boys. And I love Bob and Doug McKenzie so much. So seeing Dave Thomas was a joy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, and you have Stuart Pankin in here. You might notice him. He was a face that was frequently around during the 80s. Anne Ramsey, which was already mentioned, Throw Mama from the Train. So you have a lot of recognizable 80s faces. But Barbara Carrera is really interesting to me because she, this is not her only witch film. She appears twice in my book, actually. She's in Stepmom, which I believe is a 1989 movie, where she, again, is a witch. And why is that important? Because in the 1980s, and then going into the early 1990s, Hollywood loved to use women of color as witches. And so you had Barbara Carrera is from Nicaragua. She has an accent. And so there was this tie-in between women of color, especially ones with accents or had this sort of sexual allure, and they tag that as the witch, as the evil witch or a seductress, etc. So there was sort of this othering that was going on in the 80s that this film also plays into. They use that. And so Barbara Carrera plays that role. And you can see that as Pam Grier in Something Wicked This Way Comes. Apollonia is in a movie. So you see it periodically throughout the 80s and into the 90s where the evil witch, or she's sort of evil in this one, is played by a woman of color, typically someone with an accent that reads as exotic to the general audiences. So that's an interesting little tidbit from my book, and you can read more about that in my lovely book. But anyway, that is my top 5 interesting things about this movie. And someone else wants to talk about it? I'll tell you my opinions later.
Yes, we will get into our opinions in a moment, but I know Courtney is itching to give us both barrels. Courtney Buckley.
All right, so let me preface this by saying, number 1, I have 3 pages of notes. Number 2, as everyone I'm sure is expecting, because we talk about this all the time, the Salem trope is literally the worst thing I could ever see on a television screen because they always get it wrong, right? Having said that, one of the most common questions that I get on tours or when selling tours is people, other than where were the witches burned, which the answer is obviously Europe, not here. The other question is, what books or movies are the most accurate portrayals of the witch trials that I could watch? And from here on out, this will be my answer. I have never loved a movie more than I love this movie.
Boom.
I knew it.
When I tell you, I was it took me, this is what, an hour and a half long movie. It took me like 2.5 hours to watch it because I paused it every 4 seconds to type something. I was screaming when the judge and the mayor were plotting in the office about that they were going to accuse people of witchcraft and just steal their land. I was like, how brave, how bold to put this on film. Like, really, screaming out loud. And then just the jokes, everything. It was absolute perfection. And the whole time I was like, yeah, I could look past the burned because everything else was like, oh, yeah, accurate. Like, so accurate. So, Heather, thank you. No one will be getting hexed today because of you. This was an excellent choice. I do have to say I was scared because Heather's lead up for like weeks. She's been saying, Courtney can't miss Love at Stake. Courtney can't miss Love at Stake. And I was afraid. And then Jason texted me earlier today saying something. And I was like, oh God, I'm really scared. And then I started it and I was like, there it is. There it is. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I have no criticisms at all. I have 0 criticisms. I just have 3 pages of things that I loved about this movie.
So when Richard-Lael, I'm gonna butt in and make this about me. when Richard-Lael asked me to do it, the way that he pitched it to me was he really leaned into the historical accuracy of the costumes. And because I was like, I'm so busy this week, I'm slammed, I'm working on a show, I've got this and that and the other. And he was like, no, darling, we really need your insight. We really need your insight. And I was like, okay, fine. And he says a sentence that only would work from his lips and my ears. No other human being on the planet is going to understand the full severity of the following sentence, which is he just says, Chad, there's a magistrate in 1693 Salem wearing a full bottom wig. And my exact response was, and that was how he got me. That being said, Courtney, the reason why I'm butting in, I have no notes either. I have nothing to praise.
I'm so happy.
Yep.
I'm so happy.
Oh, Tabitha, that's so funny. She wants directions to Sara Lee's other bakery.
Oh my God.
That bakery was, for those of you who haven't seen it, Sara Lee is the main pilgrim or whatever she is. And Sara Lee has a bake shop. And so this witch comes into town and wants to sort of frame this good, innocent girl as a witch. And so she says, it cuts to the scene inside the shop, and the other witch has hexed the sign, and it's Sara Lee's avant-garde or dirty or
erotic, straight up. It literally she changed the
erotic
sign.
Bake shop,
erotic bakery. Yeah.
She's inside and she's presenting this cake. She says, I thought of you just for this birthday celebration for your granddaughter, the 16th birthday. I thought of you. I hope you enjoy it. And she opens up the cake from the camera's point of view, and Sara Lee doesn't see it. And she looks down, and it is a full-on phallic
maypole.
The gingerbread men. The gingerbread men were growers, not showers. Okay,
I want to talk about the aroused gingerbread men. Richard-Lael knows this about me, that every Christmas I bake gingerbread, and I make gingerbread men that are about this big. They're magnificent, and I was inspired. So this year, send me your addresses. I will mail you aroused gingerbread men.
Yes,
I can't not after seeing and the boob bread on the walls.
It's so amazing. Boobs and butts. It's the best.
I was going to say it has Jason Mankey singing boobs and butts.
Boobs and butts.
Oh,
boobs and butts. There really weren't any butts though. There were boobs. Were there butts? They were really. It was more like
only during the
boobs and boobs.
The chowder wrestling match in the pub. There was like a wet trouser contest. I don't know. There was you could see the buttocks, but it did nothing for me.
They were wearing pants though, like they were wearing bottoms, so there really wasn't like clear butts.
I am astounded. I'm astounded that I was able to watch this on YouTube with the amount of exposed breasticles that were very visible. It was very alarming.
Listen, can we talk about the songs too? Because I every time thought, like, no, that's not happening. And then they'd sing the song. I don't even know if I can say the first one, but like I was screaming, and yes, about the cat, and then that was a running joke the whole time. But then they play the next song until the finale at the end with the dance number. I was losing my mind. I thought I was gonna pass out. Those songs, I want everyone to be my ringtone. Like.
Are any of you familiar with the British sitcom Are You Being Served?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Slocum talking about her cat, using that word. It literally felt like all of the dialogue for that woman was written by Mrs. Slocum. And the funeral scene where everyone is in their funeral attire and the camera pans back and the cat has on a little with a veil.
Stop.
And when the woman was like,
someone grab her cat. And the guy's like, oh, because he's blind.
I had the honor of watching this with my roommate, who is just he's a comedic genius, and he was losing it at all of the like the inane ADR lines that were thrown in, like when the woman who's at the harpsichord pipe organ gets hit with the cane and falls off, you hear this voice go, "Drunk again."
I watched it with subtitles on, so I got to see all of that, which was great.
Oh my god, it was hilarious.
Oh, it was so incredible. And then also not just the songs and the peppered and everything, but like the signs that were everywhere, or like the what was he when he was in the carriage and he was reading the screw you
magazine.
I wrote it down. Yeah, it's screw you EWE, and it's the sheep with like wearing little bikinis over all its things, and it's like sheep dip 10 new recipes plus bad black sheep. I was like, sign me up, like subscribe. I'm subscribed.
That was the minute where I was like, what on earth is going? What because the way that Richard-Lael had spun it, he made it seem as if it was a very serious period drama that was just poorly executed. And so
you are evil, Richard-Lael.
I'm literally laying on my couch in my living room, like with this migraine, and I'm like, okay, I have to watch this thing. How am I gonna suffer through it? So I made an entire pizza, which I ate all of, by the way, and a pot of tea. And 5 minutes in, and I was bolt upright. My migraine was gone, and I was on the edge of the couch, just plotting things to buy Richard-Lael as a gift for roping me into this, because it was so. Okay, I have to ask, because I know what mine is. I need to know what everyone's favorite sight gag was.
Favorite sight gag.
And if you want me to start, I will start.
No, I think, you know what, there were several. I obviously the gingerbread man, we talked about that. I have to admit, I loved the blind parson playing his pianoforte and talking about his mama, a la Stevie Wonder. Like that one, the sight gag was quite literally
a sight gag.
That was my favorite.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. My favorite was the spinning newspaper, because you always see the newspaper, but he's calling out the headline and cranking, and it's spinning. But then, which was funny to begin with, but then they nailed it when the camera angle changed and the townspeople were going like this, trying to read it. And I have to say, just as a person who works on film, the wire work in this movie, all of the flying sequences are flawless. They're so good. You can't see a single wire. When she's flying around on the broom, she's so high up in the air, and there's no, like, you can't see the shadow from the crane. Like, it's so well done. And I also love a tasteful fart joke. And so when he farted out the door,
and then when she came into his yard and he stood up and he was like,
wait, can I just? Jason hasn't said one thing, and we don't know if he's turning his light out or putting on sunglasses or quiet.
Oh God, what did I do?
I just wow. I just feel like I watched a different movie than the rest of you. I mean, I know some of us feel that way sometimes. I mean, I chuckled a couple of times, but I just did not find this to be the laugh riot that apparently everyone else thought it was. You know, to me, it felt. I know certainly. And
maybe
it's
someone
right
is
now, like,
getting. Someone
me
is
turning
getting
off my light is useless now because it's bright outside. But you know, it's like I felt like it was just sort of a parody of better, smarter movies that I liked at the time, like Airplane, National Lampoon's Vacation, Naked Gun. Obviously, there's some Blazing Saddles, but it just kind of had that 80s movie feel. There were people in it that I liked. You know, I chuckled a few times. Maybe we just all have different taste in film. Right. I'm trying really hard to be nice. Now
that Jason has gotten his irrelevant opinion out of the way, if I may.
His irrelevant opinion.
Oh man. Oh, you hurt me. And I texted you while watching this movie, Courtney.
I know. I want to
I
talk.
love you so much that I texted you while watching this movie because I'd always wondered how that mall in downtown Salem
So
got
that's
built,
what I want to talk
and
about.
now I know.
That's what I want to talk about. Not only was this movie historically accurate to the witch trials, it was also historically accurate to Salem today for multiple reasons. One being the mall, and that is what Jason texted me about today, and that's what made me scared. But the fact that the scariest thing that's in Salem today is the mall, specifically the mall bathrooms, and that this was, we talk about it all the time. People ask us, where's the closest public restroom? And we'll be like, the mall, but don't do it. And because it's horrifying in there. But the fact that that was in here, like that they were plotting out like the takeover of the town and included the mall, I thought I was going to pass out. I literally thought I was going to pass out. Sorry,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, the second thing is, as I'm watching them roast the like hot dogs like at the burning, and like it's like a little carnival, like when they're just burning people and whipping people. I was like, wow, it's October. It's October in Salem right there on the screen. And it was just very for a hot second, I was like, wow, this feels very deep. Like the rest of the movie didn't. The rest of the movie felt very silly, but this part hit me in such a way that I was like, this is pretty deep. Jason, I see you in the comments. Stop talking.
Wow. I can't see anything from all of the shade that Jason is casting.
First of all, Courtney, you have to remember in 1987 it was big mall time. Everybody was going to malls in 87. So they of course were going to put in a mall. It wasn't scary or shady back then. That was the thing to do, as they pointed out, all the teenagers. I mean, that's where you went in the 80s when your parents dropped you off if you were old enough, or they took you, and if you were old enough, you spent the day walking around a mall. I grew up in New Jersey by Paramus, which had 5 malls all on top of each other. So it was which mall. It wasn't even just the mall. It was which mall are you going to? So that's true to the times. Very, very 80s. Very 80s. I wanted to point out something someone said earlier about how comedy sometimes can get through messages that drama can't. And I've said that a number of times before, like Bewitched and Addams Family are 2 of those that I point out always as doing that. And the actual producers of Bewitched said that's why they did Bewitched. And I think that this is what you have here. And, whether you laughed once or you laughed throughout the whole time, I think you're seeing that satire, that commentary directly on the satanic panic, which was emerging into infiltrating everything by 1987, and people were really like, "What the heck is this?" It hadn't reached into the fever pitch it gets into the 90s, where you start to see it. But I think that this is making a lot of it. I mean, when Dr. Joyce Brothers comes out and gives her opinion, that was when I was like, I just laugh every time. I've seen this movie. I've only seen this movie twice. So when I first watched it for the book, I had not seen it before. So I didn't see it in the 80s. But when I watched it for the book, I was like, I don't know what I'm getting into. And I laughed throughout. And I laughed again throughout, thinking, oh my God, this is so stupid. This is so funny. And I'm telling you, when Dr. Joyce Brothers came on this time again, out loud, like, that is perfect. She was so right.
So the gays, as a gay man, I exist almost permanently in the pop culture of the 1980s because it was the last great decade. And when he called Joyce Brothers to the stand, I physically did a 180 to be like, I'm sorry, what? And then when the camera angle changed and she comes walking in what is arguably the most period accurate outfit in the entire movie, like
she probably paid for
realistically,
her own costume.
down to the gloves that she had the inset frogging on her collar that you could tell was all hand done because the knots were all uneven, and she had it was fabulous. She looked absolutely, I nearly lost my ham. I was screaming so loudly.
But she calls out exactly what's going on with the moral panic. That's what's so brilliant. I mean, she just calls it out right there. And I remember going, yes. And here I am studying the moral panic for the book. And I'd already done a number of articles and research on the satanic panic prior to this book. So when she says that, I was like, And she just, well, there you go. Done. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
She was hands down. I admit that was hands down. Though I have to admit, my favorite costume was the completely historically accurate Sarah Lee dress that she wore.
I will kill you.
You know, the 1980s.
I will fly to New Orleans and I will strangle you with your own curtain tiebacks. Okay, but that's an excellent segue for me to, so that's an excellent segue for me to talk I know I've been talking a lot, so I apologize, but can I talk a little bit about the costume design? Okay.
Go.
So the first thing is nothing is accurate. Like some of the background characters are realistically, but the rest of them aren't. But I have to say that I loved the magistrate's costumes, because he's dressed in literally like early, like actually not even early, late 1700s like French clothing. So for him to show up and be this money grubbing character is actually kind of perfect, because he had 3 different outfits. They're all vaguely the same, but they were different. But every single one of them is dripping in gold, and he's the only one other than the witch in the entire movie who's dressed at a higher station than everyone else. Sarah Lee's outfits, while not accurate again at all, except for the zippers. I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but every dress that she's wearing were the same vaguely floral patterns that you would see on Sarah Lee marketing from the period. So she's kind of dressed like a Sarah Lee boss. That being said, it was a missed opportunity for there not to be a rival bakery across the square that was owned by Goody Crocker, because had there been like a showdown between Goody Lee and Goody Crocker, that would have been hilarious. But I have to say that my favorite costumes throughout the whole thing are the things that the witch wears, because at the start, she just looks like a super wealthy woman of a period, not the period. But as the movie goes on, she somehow managed to get sluttier and sluttier and sluttier until she ended up in just a corset with a whip. And it was so good. But the best thing is to piggyback on, that outfit. The best thing, though, was Heather talked about the societal othering of the various witch characters in film by making them an exotic woman of some sort. Everything that she's wearing is Spanish. Everything. She's got the fan. She's got all of the black lace. She's got the bright colors. Everything is Spanish. And I absolutely loved that her magic was just like a dreadful attempt at mimicking Bewitched, because she would just squint rather than do the nose, which was absolutely great. The other thing I had to point out that a moment that hurt me was when the magistrate gets out of the carriage. You can see the giant puddle in front of him. And I was like, oh, they're going to do some bit about him trudging through. Like, I fully anticipated him. I thought he was going to knock that peasant down and use him as a stepping stone to avoid stepping in the water. But when he stepped in and was submerged up to his chin in muddy water in metallic gold brocade, it caused me internal bleeding, because that costume was so lovely and it was just trashed.
Those are our potholes here in Massachusetts. So, I don't know. Every time I hit one in my car, my soul leaves my body, and I like pray to a God I don't believe in, because I don't know what the undercarriage of my car looks like. So we have that's one of our whole seasons. We have like road work, we have winter, road work, potholes, winter. Like that's our seasons.
Oh my God.
So it is
Sounds
an
like a
accurate. It
great
is
place to live.
historically.
It is so accurate. Everything is accurate. It's like it's the most accurate movie I've ever seen.
And I will tell you this too, is that it predicted the future, because you have some person who likes to grab women's cats sitting in a courtroom and breaking wind. I mean, it's the best wind. It's really good wind. It breaks wind.
They said it was going to be a witch trial. I said we had the best. They're so good because these witches are not good people. Okay? We didn't have any of them. We had lots of witches.
Bravo. You all are almost making me like this movie the more we talk about it, you know.
As you should,
Some movies are
Jason.
like that, Jason. The more you talk about them, the funnier they are, and they're actually
Jason, you're
funnier to talk
outnumbered.
about than they are to watch them.
I have
It's
so
a-
many more notes. I have so many more notes.
You
If
know
need
what's
more
strange
things.
about this movie though is, as a kid who grew up in the 80s, why didn't I see this anywhere else? This feels like something that should have ran incessantly on cable television or on HBO or something, because
I wanna
all
know
of these
that
similar
too.
movies did, right? And this is something I'd never heard of until we watched it, right? Until last week.
And I hadn't either, and I think several reasons. One, it was a big. I mean, it was TriStar. It was distributed by MGM, so it wasn't a backwater film, a low budget film at all, which you can see. But my suspicion is that it was very unsuccessful, and it also, the content would not have been as easily accepted at that time on cable television, even though cable television was what it was. So I think the combination of the two kind of dropped it. And maybe it did appear for some time and we just didn't realize it because we weren't of the age where we would have watched this film. It wouldn't have attracted us necessarily.
Oh, it would have attracted me. I watched all those movies back then. My parents
don't know.
didn't care what we watched.
I did not know about it at the time either. And so I would have to go back to production notes to figure out what exactly happened to it. But it's clearly not, it didn't reach airplane status, you know, which Airplane, I must have watched that movie 1,000 times over and over and over. But no.
I mean, that witch is a witch that I would have wanted to watch as a 12-year-old boy. There's no question about that. And Kelly Preston is not hard on the eyes either.
Can we talk about Mr. Cassidy, though? Because he not only could get it, but I looked him up. He could still get it very easily.
He was in a lot of Broadway stuff, too.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Oh, my God.
There's always a chance.
He is. I will tell you, he looked like, well, I can't say
delicious.
The word.
He looked delicious.
He looked delicious, but I'm going to tell you, I won't say the word, but it was a cornucopia. You know, some of the things that you would watch when you are wanting pleasure, like pornography.
I don't know. Okay. Usually we have the drums ready for Richard.
Yeah, right.
Maybe not that one.
Maybe not.
That was a dreadful pun.
Well, that's because he took my breath away. I was so busy drooling that my mind went, and I had to say something, you know.
It's because you can cut diamonds on his jawline. My God.
Wow.
So let me just jump in here. If you guys like this and you like this type of comedy, there's another one that came out right around this time. It's called 4 Rooms. I think it might have been a few years later into the 90s, that has a similar type of comedic. It's a short. So 4 Rooms is a series of short stories, and the witch one is the very first one, and I can't remember the name of it. It's called The Ingredient, I think, and it has Madonnas in it, which, you know, of course, for me, I was like, I have to watch this, but I had to watch it for the book too, and it is a ridiculous comedy of this sort, and it's a short one, so you can rent 4 Rooms, watch the first one. Oh, someone says, Kelvin said he remembers 4 Rooms, so you can watch that one too. And it came out the same time, and the witch part, and it's a bunch of witches who are looking to bring back their goddess Diana, and they need ingredients, and the one girl forgot the specific ingredient and needs to go get it during the thing, and it's very funny. So
I think we should watch it. Why not?
I can put it on the list, but the witch part is only the first quarter of the film, so we'll see.
Yeah, but what did we watch the other day that had no witches in it?
Xanadu.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
I blanked that film out.
I didn't forget. I did not forget.
Yeah,
Xanadu needed more
text
jazz
everybody.
Well,
anyway.
I think let's see, who should we go to? Do we want to do movie quotes first, or I guess we do Jason's movie minute later? Yeah. So yes. Courtney, you have some.
All right, buckle up, kids.
I think I'm going to go get a drink, work on some dinner while Courtney reads her 3 pages of notes.
Excellent idea.
All right.
Chad's got it.
Here we go. So my first quote is the opening of the movie because I stopped and watched it 3 times because I thought it was great. So here we go. Long, long ago in merry old England, there lived a warm and friendly, happy-go-lucky people who lived life to its fullest. Unfortunately, this movie isn't about them. This movie is about another group of people, a people so stern, so self-righteous, so sanctimoniously pure that they even called themselves Puritans. This is the day of their departure of England, a sad, sad day for one and all. Anyway, the Puritans were setting out for the New World, where they could make the rules. They wanted to build towns with curfews, schools with dress codes, restrooms with pay toilets, and they decided to do it in an obscure, far-off backwood colony of England, a place called America. And I thought that was just everything. Everything. My next quote is from when Sarah and what's-his-face were reuniting. And he tries to like kiss her, and she's like, stop, somebody will see. And he's like, so? And she says, they passed a city ordinance while you were gone that strictly forbids public displays of affection. And he says, a law against kissing? You're kidding. And she goes, no, Miles, I'm not. No kissing, no touching, no looking directly into the eyes of a member of the opposite sex, no bathing. And he says, you can't take a bath? And she said, not if you're naked. And if that wasn't the most Puritan thing I've ever heard in my life. Then I wrote down the bit about the Screw You magazine. And then they get to the town and they're whipping someone. And the lady runs up and she's like, no, you've got to have more snap in your wrist. And so then she whips the guy and says, how's that? And the guy being whipped goes, much better. Then the judge shows up at the mayor's house and the lady with the red A on her is leaving. And the judge says, isn't that woman an adulteress? And the mayor goes, yeah, and a damn good one, too.
Damn good one.
And then, oh my God, probably my favorite line in the whole movie is when the judge and the mayor are coming up with their plan, and the judge is like, my friend, we are going to stir up a witch frenzy, accuse innocent people of consorting with the devil, give them a quick mock trial, mercilessly burn them at the stake, and then confiscate all their land. And the mayor says, is that legal? And the judge goes, yes.
Yes.
Then I wrote down the Cat is a Man's Best Friend song, Are You Joking? And then after she's done singing that song, Miles says, how are you today? And she says, oh, I'm glad you asked. I had the most wonderful enema this morning. At first, I thought nothing was happening, and then a low rumble started. Anyway, I felt this whooshing, and he's like, and I'm going in the kitchen. Bye. Okay,
but the best part about that quote is the look of horror that, like, his face, because he's like, how are you? And then she starts talking, and he's like, because he knows he's trapped.
It's so good.
I'm going to use that the next time a Jehovah's Witness comes to my door.
Oh, I have some tips for you about that. When Miles is doing the wood chopping, and then the witch comes up, and then she lifts her skirt up, and the welcome stranger tattoo. Like, okay, I'm getting that. Then the lady in the wheelchair says, child's play is the devil's workshop, which I like that too. Then we have the Madame Dong's House of Rubbers, which was great. Oh wait, no, I lied. This is my favorite line. I had to pause the movie here, scream, laugh, cry, throw up, come back, and then I was like, I'm obsessed with this movie. When they're revealing the plan to the parson and Mummy, and they're trying to like tell him, oh, something supernatural happened, and then the brother's like, the guy's like, I don't have a brother, and then he slaps him. He's like, oh yes, my brother experienced something supernatural at the full moon, whatever he's talking about, and then it doesn't work. So then the judge goes, really, parson? Oh my, I didn't want to have to submit you to this horror, but I'm afraid you give me no choice. And then he dramatically holds out a rock. This is Mrs. Elizabeth Goodbody, an innocent young woman who is demonically transformed into a piece of granite. And the person goes, dear God. Oh no, I ask you, Parson, is this the fate of the people of our community? Do you want to go down in history as the man who let Salem turn into a quarry? I can't. I have to, like, there are no other words. That was it. Like that. I just can't. Okay. So, then the response to that, Mummy says, so you finally come to your senses, come to realize what I've always known, that the sons and daughters of Lucifer have been allowed to run free in this town for far too long. Now is the time for decent, God-fearing people of this town to unite and spill the blood of the wicked. I say we cut out their slimy guts and burn them to a crisp. I was very excited about that. Oh my God. And then they're talking, it goes to whatever, the witch and Abigail, her cousin, and the husband is saying, is being mean to her. And Abigail's like, oh, be nice, she's in mourning. And he goes, mourning? I bet she's in mourning. 7 husbands in 2 years. She's jammed more pork than a Salem sausage stuffer.
Sausage stuffer.
I can't. I just we need t-shirts of all of these. Then the Salem song I want as my ringtone. Pay now, pray later. She's holding up the money thing at the church. Oh yeah. Then the blind guy is like touching, and he's like, he's greeting everybody, and he touches the cat, and he's like, my God, what is this? And she says, it's my cat. And he goes, oh! Okay. Then I wrote the farting in church and people are gagging. I am crying. And then it pans over to the guy with the horns and the tail.
That's
Sitting in church. Like, literally in all capital letters. I can't.
Because they said what made me laugh was they were saying the devil may be hiding amongst you as your friends and family and loved ones.
And then there he is with the horns and the tails wagging.
And he grabs his tail.
I have to point out that I recently listened to a 6-part podcast about the Charles Manson murders, and they had a bunch of like supplementary material, and one of them is that video of Charles Manson making faces, and I swear to God, that demon guy is doing, like, that's what he's doing with his face. It feels so intentional, and it
probably was
it
considering the
had to
time
have been.
period.
It feels
Yeah.
so. It's either that or he's just really proud of himself.
That's amazing.
Courtney, more quotes.
Yep.
We're
Get
only
out
on
there.
page 2.
We are only on page 2. Get out of there and get out there and barbecue the bastards. Then I wrote in all capital letters the penis cake and breads and boob breads and gingerbread penises. He says a few years from now. Oh, he's trying to. Miles is trying to reassure Sarah, and he's like, a few years from now, no one's ever going to remember the Salem Witch Trials.
That was great.
Then I wrote down roasting hot dogs at the feet of the burning woman. I'm actually dying. And then I wrote, it's like October in Salem. And then they're singing, someone's burning my Lord.
Around a charred corpse that is falling apart.
Hysterical. I was hysterical. I couldn't breathe. Oh, and then now the map is on the wall. So it says Puritan Village. And then it's just got a little answer key at the top. It says, land we have from people we've burnt, and land we want from people we've not burnt yet. And when the brick comes through his window, and she's like, you better read that. And he picks it up, and he's like, it says Salem Brick Company. And she's like, no, the other side. And he flips around and is like, you're next. And then she makes him sign the paper, and she says, oh, I better get these papers over to the mob. Oh, I mean the committee. Then the turkey.
Oh no.
When he's in bed with the turkey, and they're smoking, and then it pans over, and the turkey's smoking also. Like, could not. Then I wrote in all capital letters, not the peace pipe. Because there was that was a lot. That was great. Then when Miles goes to like bring her the food through the thing, and he's like, oh, Sarah, are you all right? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, what's the matter? And she's like, I'm in jail.
I'm in jail.
And then it cuts back to the guy with the turkey, and the wife is like unveiling the turkey, and she's like, you won't believe it, but this bird was wearing a diamond ring when I chopped its head off. I thought I was going to pass out. And then it goes to his grave, And it says, "Here lies Nathaniel. What can be said? He loved his turkey and now he's dead." And then the blind pastor says the wrong name, and the mother goes, "This is the Baxter funeral, you know, the degenerate with the turkey." Like, I could not.
I loved it earlier in the movie when she called him lard ass.
Yeah. Oh my God, then when they're trying to have a private conversation under the veil, and then the pastor comes in, he gets under the veil. So it's all three of them. And they're like, no, she says, "No, please, let's start walking. We don't want to call attention to ourselves." And then all three of them are like,
Oh my God.
wow.
I'm going to watch it again tonight.
Courtney, the jokes are better when you tell them. Like, that's the truth. This is better than watching the film. Just listen to Courtney recite bits of this film and just hear what she's excited about. It's better than this movie.
This movie is great. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I forget what this one was, but she says, "Oh yes, Abigail, everything." When she was in the corset with the whip, and then Abigail comes in, she's still in the corset with the whip, and Abigail's like, "Is everything all right?" And she's like, "Oh yes, Abigail, everything's fine. I was just reading the Bible." And then they're breaking into the house, and the judge and his wife are coming down the stairs, and the kid's like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Respect your elders. Go back inside." He shoots the kid. He goes, "That's what happens when cousins marry."
I loved it earlier. Speaking of the guns, I have
so
to
much
this out.
better than the movie that I watched.
I loved it earlier in the movie when the sheriff took his gun out to silence everyone, and after he fired it, he goes, "Good thing I had my bullet on me." Just the one bullet.
Oh my God!
You missed the best quote in a funeral scene.
Which one?
"Someone grab my cat."
Oh yeah. Sorry. Well, I already wrote several of those ones, so I didn't write that one down. But yeah, that was a good one. But then when it's Sarah's trial, and then I can't breathe. I can't even talk about this. When it's Sarah's trial, and he gets up and he's like, he's doing the defense, and he's like, "Yes, like whatever." And then it's like, "Does the prosecution have anybody?" And he just gets out from behind the table and he walks over, and then he changes his voice. He's like, "Yes, hello." Like, he's the prosecution too. I thought I was gonna pass out. Okay. And then you can't find the map, so there's no. And again with the map, I love a movie with a map.
You do.
And he can't find the map. And he has like just the wrapping, and then he unwraps the sandwich from the map, and it takes like 4 years for them to figure out that that's the map. "Don't Keep Satan Waiting" was the song. In all capitals, "Don't keep Satan waiting. Are you kidding me?" is what I wrote. Oh my God, the witch being burnt. I literally cannot is what I wrote, because when the torch flew over and poof, she lit on fire, and she was whatever she was after that. I was like, no, this can't be happening. This is not. I was not ready for this. And then at the very, very end, when the credits rolled and "Burning Love" started playing, I will never recover. So I will never recover from this movie. I've talking about it. I cannot. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
You're welcome.
Speaking of funny things, we
Heather,
have to move on because we are running low on time. Jason Mankey, let's do your movie minute. I bet you have something real clever to give us.
Well, Courtney should just put her sunglasses on now. I think that's the first thing, right? We'll see. I feel like as I said, I feel like I watched a different movie than the rest of you, and I make fun of Joyce Brothers in this bit. So, maybe I'll be kicked off the show after this. But have you ever met someone who tried too hard? This kind of person. "Jason, you are the coolest and have the best hair, and it's the smartest person I've ever met. Can we be friends? I want to be your best friend. Like, we can hang out all the time and do whatever you want to do, and I bought you a present. Please be my friend." I would describe someone like this as needy. Needy people aren't always bad, and they often have the best of intentions. They just try too hard and end up annoying the people they are trying to impress. Love at stake is like hanging out with the neediest person you've ever met. Our movie is kind of like other famous movies, I promise. It does weird random things like Airplane and Naked Gun. It's got a scene where someone walks into an old house And then, surprise, it's a bar complete with a song in the background that sounds like it's from Caddyshack. Oh my God, did we mention there's scantily clad women wrestling in clam chowder? Isn't that hilarious? No, it actually wasn't hilarious, and I'm not even sure it was funny. I was glad not to be eating lunch during that period of the movie. Okay. Our movie, though, has people that you'd recognize from other things, and they were funny in those things. Like, did you see Bob and Doug McKenzie? We have one of those guys. And then there's that guy from HBO's Not Necessarily the News is the Judge. And there's that guy who was in the Police Academy movies. You like those, right? And one of those people in our film was nominated for a Golden Globe when she was a James Bond girl showing off her Golden Globes. And we have her show off her Golden Globes in every scene she's in. 12-year-old you would love that. Seeing all of those sort of famous people made me realize how much I liked them in other better projects. I just couldn't help but think you all were squandering a pretty good cast that deserved better. Yeah, but we wrote some really funny jokes. These were the funniest jokes we've ever come up with. In one scene, we have a guy farting, but he's farting in church. Isn't it funnier that he's farting in church?
Yes.
No one ever farts in church, right? And then there's another scene where a guy is made to fall in love with a turkey, and then he follows the turkey into an alley and has sex with it. He had sex with a turkey. Isn't that hilarious? I bet you've never seen a movie where someone has sex with a turkey. I have not ever seen a movie where people have sex with a turkey, but I'm not sure that scene was funny. Mostly I was just happy to not be eating while I watched it. Though I was a little angry with all of you, as I feel like you've probably ruined Thanksgiving for me forever. So thanks for that. Do you know those movies with zany plots, like where someone is trying to bulldoze the orphanage and only Mark Harmon can save them? Well, our movie does that too, but instead, our zany plan involves building a mall. Aren't we funny? It's like a commentary on late-stage capitalism, but we don't know how to be subtle or clever, so it's just there, but we tried. We should get points for trying. I will give you all the credit. You did technically make a movie. I was a little weirded out that it took place in Salem, Massachusetts at the end of November, and it looked like May outside, but creative license is a thing, I guess. We had a celebrity cameo, though. We promised Dr. Joyce Brothers a new VCR if she was in our movie for 3 minutes, and she was. People will still know who she was in 2024, right? She's so cool. And we made a Nixon reference. Nixon, he had been president just 15 years before we made this movie. How topical. Woo, please be my friend. I had forgotten Joyce Brothers existed until I saw your film, though apparently everyone else on this panel remembered her. I'm guessing Dr. Ruth was out of the price range for this film, and it was too early for Jerry Springer. Please like our movie. We even put boobs in it for you, Jason. Please. I will admit, I chuckled a couple of times, but overall, this was on par with The Killing Tree and Your Highness.
How dare you!
Courtney liked it, though, and I nailed it.
You've been put in the freezer, Jason. You're now officially in Chad's freezer.
I think that time to vote. I think we should vote. One's up or one's down. I think I know how
Jason. Chad, what happened to Chad?
He put you in the freezer. That's the inside of his freezer.
Oh.
Chad left.
Chad left twice.
Chad left sunglasses. He put on sunglasses and that wasn't enough, so he put you in the freezer and then left.
So what do we have?
I'll be back next week.
One's
wow.
One's up and horns up. Jason is savage, so is Chad. When my wand is up, I do the pen is mightier than the sword. Tabitha is up. Calvin is up. So we have. I think Jason is the only person who is a neutral.
No, I think Robbie Hicks says neutral. Yeah.
You have gone. You've gone to a neutral, and I'm assuming that maybe you originally had some other pointing at that one, and maybe Courtney's enthusiasm gave you a little lift.
14-year-old me gives a big wands up to the witch, but the movie itself is just eh.
Oh my God.
What about you, Chadwick?
I have nothing within reach to hold up because I'm in my workstation, so I'm going to
Do you
use
vote it
this.
up or down?
Well, I'm getting there. I'm going to use this can of spray paint, and I'm going to vote it a very enthusiastic up because I don't like Jason anymore.
I heard you all laughing during that bit. I heard it. I know it happened.
Well, we were laughing because at some point everyone's light went out and Chad just walked away.
Hey, I am glad to bring emotion to this show. I'll take it.
Oh, you should.
Speaking of emotions, we have next week coming up. We're going to start Wars. We are actually going to do Star Wars, and I'm not telling you what my thoughts are, but we are going to start Wars next week. So I will be sitting in Jason's seat next week. I'm not giving anything else away.
I will probably be putting someone in the freezer now that I know that's a choice. So
right. So speaking of which, we have gone over time. Does anyone have anything you want to promote before we go?
North Dakota Grand Sabbath, end of May this month. I'll be in North Dakota. I'm sure lots of our viewers are in North Dakota and will be ready to come see me.
And Atlanta in July. Mystic South, come join me and 600 of your bestest witchy buddies and for 3 days of fun in Atlanta. That's mid to late July.
And happy Beltane, we love y'all.
In a couple weeks, I'll be at the Wicked Pissa Parafair in Rockland, Mass. It's on a Sunday. I'll be there all day, and come say hi.
I have nothing to promote. Oh.
Go ahead, go. Nothing.
I just was gonna say, I just read through the comments. I want to thank everyone for getting all of the gags that I did while Jason was wrong. And
Rob,
so thank you, audience.
Kick him out.
I wanted to point out quickly, go to our mysterycontrol.com, and you want to go into the vault because we have this new thing with the vault, and Rob and Christine have compiled some beautiful one-of-a-kind pieces. You can go there and find so many amazing things. You'll love it. One-of-a-kind things. If you're looking for a gift, code Patti still gives you a discount of, was it 25? I don't remember what it is. Code Patti gives you a discount. With that, we are over time, and I think there's only one thing left to do, and that is what witches do, and we cackle. All right, here we go.